Yeah, okay. So this is the most recent workshop we had. You can download this and read what, it's frightening. All the environmental laws which we have built painfully over 4 decades are being trashed by Narendra Modi. And I want to say it that way. I don't want to dress it up for you. You wanted the unfiltered truth? The unfiltered truth is that the destruction of India's environment is funneling crores and thousands of crores of money into the coffers of those who are communal and corrupt. These 3 C's are working at us. This is the challenge we deal with. As I said, ours is not, we don't believe in flamboyant campaigns. We believe each of these issues should be worked with the local people who suffer it, who endure it, and who relate with the problems. And so it's ground up. So for instance, look up Loktak. So we work with communities there in Manipur. These are communities who live on the lake, in houses which are built from the lake. What they do is they take all the biomass and make it into the foundation. Yeah, that's the foundation. See, this biomass is called fumdi. It's a living biomass. Okay? So it's an assemblage of different types of so-called weeds, you call it. It's not weeds for them. They take that, make it into a long bundle like a pillar, and they shove it under the reapers, which are made of bamboo, and they lift the reapers up because of buoyancy. And these are circles. You saw the circles, no? The circles are made of the fumdi. And inside that, the fish is allowed to breed. And then they go and fish there. The fishing community does not allow motorboats. They do not want to disturb the fish. Plus no oil pollution and all that. The state government wants to kick them all out. There are almost 1 lakh people who depend on this. Some 5,000 families live on the lake. So we work with them. Horrific violence has taken place again. They had brought helicopters 10 years ago and shot at them and burnt. And there is also raw footage, there's a documentary on that. And you can see women holding onto the helicopters and trying to pull it down. And they are being shot at. About 10 people were killed. And then the houses were set on fire. Even 2 years ago, 3 years ago, it was set on fire. So this is the type of resistance to living with nature. So how are we not colonial? How are we not imperial? How are we not fascist? You don't have to declare it as a fascist state. We are already that. Depends where you are. If you are in Bangalore and not arrested, obviously it's nice for you. But several of my friends are in prison. So what does it mean to them? Does it mean that you tweet and suddenly somebody picks you up under UAPA? What is fascism otherwise? Right? So one of the things we are doing is trying to make people realize that right around you, there's so much you can do. You don't have to go far and plant a tree and send it on internet to some foundation somewhere and say, here's my 42 rupees, go plant a tree on my behalf. Just do it yourself, yeah. This is a collection of our work, and this report, it came out from a judge as a response to a case we have fought. We are trying to protect the water commons. When we started this effort 15 years ago, all 4 lakes, which are key to Bangalore, had been privatized. It was being privatized because the state said we don't have resources. And by privatizing it, you and I, who have grown up going to Ebal whenever we wanted to, couldn't, because now we have to pay a gate fee, this fee, that fee. And once you go there, there'll be added activities. So you can do parasailing, this sailing, that sailing, walk around, have 5-star restaurant, floating restaurants. So now you got an experience of enjoying nature in such an artificial way, and you come back and saying, oh, what beautiful nature. So it dumps you down. It destroys you internally. It commodifies your thinking. It restructures who you are. You are not capable of going and being there quiet, just walking, putting your feet in the water, enjoying that experience. Somebody has to tell you, put your feet in the water, and there'll be some fishes running around in a cage, and then that fish will come and eat your dirt, and that you pay some 500 rupees for that. That is what you have become, right? So this Justice Patil Committee report agreed with us in our PIL and said, these are what came from the past, and we give it in a better state to the future. and they cannot be fenced, they cannot be commodified, they cannot be private. It's a landmark decision which affects the entire country. So if there is a tension in the country, it is of taking the commons which have been nurtured by common people for hundreds of years and ensuring it doesn't transfer into the hands of Elon Musk's or Oberoi's or Azim Premji or Narayan Murthy or whoever else that may be, because they have money. Money cannot, there's a doctrine called the doctrine of public trust, very old doctrine, which basically says you cannot trade with it for any reason. It shall only be used for the particular purpose. A lake is a lake, it cannot become a theme park. Okay? And uses traditional to that cannot be removed from it. Once you reclaim the commons and make it public commons, accessible, clean, natural, and so on, socio-economic productivity, health, equity, everything will automatically come. You don't have to struggle and have a project on poverty alleviation, on sanitation, put a toilet. Most toilets are used at goat shed. You know that, right? Most toilets are used as goat sheds. So this is what happens when you try to make it technical. So try and make every relationship natural. You should ask those birds. They probably have. They say, what is technology? What is nature? What is going forward, going away? You know, the Godwit, did you see that story, incredible story recently? A Godwit traveled from Siberia to Tasmania, which is below, down under, a distance of 13,600 kilometers, non-stop. Which human creation has managed to do that? In 1980s, I used to go climbing in Thurali with a bunch of people. At that time, there was no such thing as climbing as a corporate activity or an organized activity. We just went and climbed. We didn't know it was a thing. Okay, some people came and threw a belay and said, oh, this is how you climb. While we used to go to that, there was this nice winding road through Uttarahalli, which on both sides was filled with greenery, farms, horticultural farms. Today, you won't even find 1% of that. It's all gone. Okay? It's erased completely, scraped out. And while you came through that, there was a rock, which is where I think partly it has been encroached by ISKCON and partly by, N. Krishnappa was the MLA, and he has a layout called Kankadasa layout. Mantri Tranquil also on the other side, but there's a beautiful Kalve. I still remember that springs that used to come from there and feed the lake which was below. Okay? And this kere was just like another kere. We used to see lots of keres. And we didn't have a problem of sewage at all because we have washed our faces in Voskote, Subramanyapura, Yellamalappa Chetti, Ebbal, okay, Lalbagh. This is how it was, right? Just 20 years ago, yeah, not something long before. Because water flowed in nice ways on good land, and it was not contaminated as badly as it was. People there in Subramanyapura drank water from it. All right? In the late 90s or mid 90s, I think, there was displacement inside the city of people who were poor in a slum. So slum should not be in the city. The City Beautiful campaign was going on. They got kicked out. Where do they go? This was the only place. It was no man's land, no? Because it is not private property. They went and squatted around the lake. So they lived there. And over a period of time, they got patta, electricity, this, that, and all that, and they lived. So the poor people went there not out of choice, but because they had been kicked out. And they ended up there because that is the only place they could find free land. And then it became, over a period of time, a mature community, and then it also became a vote bank. So the story is very simple. The guy who protects them gets the votes. Not very difficult to understand that. In Subramanyapura, what happened was, it started getting encroached from the side, inside the lake. But upstream, it got encroached by what is now Mantri Tranquil. And above that was a lake called Venkatrayana Kere, which got encroached by BDA, which went and put 200 plots of land inside it. So this road you see, no? This is the road I am talking about. Okay, this is the road we used to cycle and it would stop here, okay, and then we would walk from here all the way to Thuralli. These were the rocks. So we'll come back to this. Now you see, this is the lake. You see all these houses here? These are the poor people who got kicked out there. There are also houses all around here, which were removed. Okay, they were removed after we got them relief. And I'll tell you the story here. It becomes a little bit more complicated because common but differentiated responsibility, you understand? That we talked about a little while ago. Everybody has a responsibility to protect this lake. It's a common responsibility. But it needs to be differentiated because these poor people came not because of choice. They were compelled to live. That night, if they didn't find a space, their children would be sleeping on the street. They had been kicked out from the city. All right? Now, if you go upstream, Mantri Tranquil, and this block, there's a causeway which goes there. Okay? And see where here Krishna has encroached, here Mantri has encroached, there Krishnappa has encroached. These are all powerful people, no? They cannot be kicked out. But the poor people can be kicked out because they are not powerful. So you see how power shapes your destiny. So there is therefore for poor people, vote bank is the power. That's how we negotiate power. So you remember, corruption creates spaces in which the poor live. Without that, you cannot be poor in this country. You're dead, you're finished, right? So rather be poor and corrupt than be non-existent. This is their lived reality. And you see this Kanaka Desa layout, and see the Kalwe? It snakes in. On both sides was one of the most beautiful landscapes you can imagine. Rocky, farmers and pastoralists had protected it as commons. And today, there's water used to flow all over. The scraping is happening because of the layout, okay, and a little bit here there's a bund, and then you can see they have also filled up land. They have encroached the space. From here till here was all commons in the revenue map of 1925 or 26. And a revenue map of 1925-26 is true for this time and age as well. Because what was commons then should be commons. That is a judicial verdict. That is the law. Nobody gave anyone the power to say, oh, it was 100 years ago and this is now mine. Except if you are corrupt and illegal, which they are both. Now, we worked to get this lake protected as a model, and we said you can't save this lake unless you save this entire watershed. We gave a model, it's there online, you can download it, and of course it has not happened. And what is now happening is that there is a movement from these people who came about 5-10 years ago, right? Some parts of their property has encroached the commons this side. There is a map I have seen in which this land which was commons was claimed as private property and sold to Prestige. So in 1972-1976 topo sheet, this is shown as village fair and common grounds. So if it is true as per the Survey of India Act, then it is true today that it is not private property, or the private property has been made through illegal means. And the story is that when I took this to court first, it was when I was fighting a case on this garbage issue. They were dumping garbage here, all over. And Ashoka was then the revenue minister. This is the first time Yediyurappa was the chief minister. And he was then revenue minister also. So he wanted to put up a TTMC here. You know what that is, no? Like that bus thing. So he wanted to turn this lake. So I went to court and I said, they're filling it and they want to turn it into that. So Siddhaya was the commissioner. So court asked Siddhaya to come to court and say, what is this? And Siddhaya came and said, there's no lake there in court. Then I said, this morning also I traveled, and when I traveled there, it was a lake. So maybe in the last 6 hours it has not become a lake. Everybody laughed, but the court gave a direction to Siddhaya to go do a site inspection Then he comes back the next day and he says, there is a lake, but in my record it is not a lake. It is there in a written statement. So what I am saying is, his record had made the lake disappear. So you mean to say that they did not disappear the commons around it, the grazing pastures? That is how this grazing pastures, if you go to the Survey of India map, all this is grazing pasture. All this. Even where the ISKCON thing, that rock is there, is shown as a grazing pasture. Okay, so now what we are trying to do is, trying to get them relocated in this. We told the court that if you rehabilitate them in the commons here, this was grazing pasture, so 14 acres was taken by the slum board and they created the worst possible apartments you can imagine. So if you want to understand Bangalore, go here to his flat and you will see how he lives, and walk across to this group of flats and see how they live. And then you ask the simple question, why does he have a right to live like that, and why don't they have the right here to live like he does? Then you understand the reality of India. And more importantly, if you walk in here, you will hear their stories. You will walk into their houses and see how shitty those houses are. It's not like the intervention didn't happen. I was there with them for 3 days, sitting here, didn't go home, except to clean up and come back, because the police wanted to destroy all those houses. So I said, if you want to destroy, then you run your bulldozers over us. We were there for 3-4 days. Okay? So the destruction didn't take place. That is when I went back to court the next day and I said, you will have these flats built. All right? When the flats were being built, all these people are masons. They came and told me, sir, namgu gottide kattlikke, ಬೂದಿನ ಹಾಕ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಸಿಮೆಂಟ್ ಹೇಳ್ತಿದ್ದಾರಲ್ಲ ಸರ್, ಬೂದಿನ ಹಾಕ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಸಿಮೆಂಟ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಬಿಲ್ಲಿಂಗ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. I went back and said in the court, but you see the problem with the forum is, I have gone through the bureaucracy to the court, where else can I go? Was there a wider community which was worried about the fact that this was being built? My fear is it is going to collapse and we'll have 200-300 people dead. It has happened in Ijipura, in Kormangala. It will happen. I don't know when, but it will happen. 5 floors built on ash, terming it as cement. You can go and pluck it, it will come off. So one of the waking up that we need to do as people who are privileged is to go and work with people like them and see what in our lives can we do to fix that problem so that we don't have a Morbi type of disaster here. And it doesn't take much, because if all the communities around work to protect this lake, and we have created an institutional mechanism for that. It's called the Lake Protection Committee. We can do it. We have judicial orders, we have government orders. All this is an outcome of our case. We have revolutionized governance. In a way, it is not just to elect somebody in power, but to actually take that power and make something out of it in your local area. There are places where people have done it. In Elanka, in Krishnarajpura, lake was encroached. Local people got together, Dalits, very rich people, Pokkaligas. I'm saying it by communities because unfortunately it's a lived reality there. Brought them together. Krishnarajpura Kere is now absolutely functional as a lake. We went to Koppal people have done it. 3-4 lakes have been done. Chitradurga, 5-6 lakes. It's happening outside. In Bangalore, what happens is, somebody here will call his local corporator or thing, and somebody here will call the commissioner, somebody here will call the chief minister, and everybody is on their own. Depends on where you are in the power pyramid and how much influence you can draw, and you get what you want. And therefore, this is a reflection of our life. This, to me, is an image of our democracy. So have a look at it whenever you have time, and you can figure out what is wrong with our governance. Those who have encroached by greed or without the need to encroach, they need to be punished. Those who have encroached out of necessity, and me not saying this, court have said it, rehabilitate them humanely. This is not humane rehabilitation, this is terrible rehabilitation. But at least they have a right to this place. Here they don't have a right to this place. So there are many things like that, fundamental rights, housing rights, property rights, all of this come into play there. And of course, if you're an architect, you can go there and see 850 flats are here. Okay, do you see any open space? But just look around, blue walking space. See what money can do. Parking space, swimming pool, clubhouse. Why don't they deserve that? I wouldn't mind if they went up like Prestige did 20 floors and created open space and given them the same type of swanky lifts that Prestige has, a swanky swimming pool, a nice walking path. Poor people deserve that. They work more than you and me. They labor more. It is just that because if you're an IT person or an architect or a bank manager or something, your time is valued more. If you're a mason, a plumber, your time is valued less. That's a brutal truth. Labor matters. Labor builds this world. And labor is undervalued here. That is why we treat people who keep our streets clean as an extension of the broom, not as a human being. So these are our this is there everywhere. Violence is there everywhere. We are embedded in the violence. We are cultivating the violence. We are violent by complicity. Our complicity is because of our silence. We choose to speak for certain things which directly benefits us. We choose to ignore most things because we don't care. We have become depersonalized, dehumanized. The problem is us. They're not of the laboring class. They're just making do with what they get. And in the night, if they're desperate, they just go get drunk. What will you do here? Go and see their houses. How will you live there if you're not drunk? When COVID happened, nobody bothered about them. We supplied a lot of food for almost all the lockdowns for them. And we didn't have people giving money for it. So we had to pull out from our own project and this and that, and we did it. So many of the poor people suffered in COVID. This is the problem. This has to be quelled. I don't think spirituality comes with, building large temples or churches or mosques. That is a statement of ego. It is not spirituality, in my way. And I would have asked, why would you need such a big thing to show off Krishna? Krishna is in everyone's house, in everyone's heart. Or Jesus Christ, or Islam, or whatever. You see, this problem is very deeply rooted, and my fear is that we are going forward with this getting more energy and money, not less. Don't take it like that. I'll tell you what. Europe went through horrific wars and fascism. They came out of it. They're slipping back into fascism, but they're fighting back. Are we fighting back against communalism, fascism, degradation of environment? We are not. We're just sitting and talking and not doing enough. So all I want is everywhere try and create critical mass. Wherever you are, whatever is your influence. Don't look for this grand movement and then I'll go and join. That grand movement will happen. Be like the mushroom. A mushroom doesn't think I'll pop up only when the other one comes. It just pops up. Everybody thinks similarly and suddenly it pops up. Life is like that. No inflorescence of a tree waits to say, hey, has he woken up? Let me wake up when he wakes up. They just do it. We are designed like that. We are becoming anti-human by curtailing our natural ability to spring out to protect life, livelihood, create peace, harmony. Which tree goes and destroys here? Which bird goes and destroys? Why is it that we need to do that? And how much do you really need? Honestly, I'm asking, what do you need? I can say, buy a lot of books. Don't buy too many video games. Okay, I'll have to stop.